question is you could have maybe offered Zuccarello a 4-year deal plus a player option or a club option, depending on either certain thresholds that potentially could shift the option, and maybe it would create less of a risk if all of a sudden a guy like Zuccarello falls off after year 4.
Yeah, I think it's a really logical thing. Player association probably prefer just straight guaranteed contracts, but it can be mutually beneficial. Sometimes the player gets out of a bad deal too.
Yeah, exactly. There are certain guys that sign long term with the team that would love to get out of it.
Thinking of anybody in particular?
I don't know what you're talking about.
From our friend Russo's Filter, if it's a copycat league, what about the Blues and their run will teams try to emulate?
I don't know. The whole copycat thing I always find is funny because it's just, every year it's a different type of team that wins. I mean, this one, obviously, both St. Louis and Boston just pounded each other to oblivion. But you are what you are. I mean, the Wild can't play that way, so they better figure out a different way to try to win. But to me, also, copycat league is dangerous when you try to alter your team to become. Remember Anaheim when the Wild lost in 2007 to Anaheim. Next year, all of a sudden, Chris Simon and Todd Fedoruk were on the Wild, and then all of a sudden they win the division and they go out and they play Colorado and they're upset in the first round. I'm pretty sure that they got outskilled in that year. Plus, guys like Gaborik and Dimitri didn't perform in the playoffs. But all of a sudden, the Wild went kind of heavy, and it just didn't work for them. And so, to me, you also just have to look at your roster and try to win the way you're based. I mean, this team is what it is right now. They've got a lot of, undersized skill. They're trying to get faster, but you're not going to be able to play like St. Louis or be able to compete with St. Louis in that type of game with, the Fialas, the Donatos, Zuccarellos, even the Zacks, those type of players, even Koivu Stahl. I mean, they're not those type of players. The only ones that seem to thrive on the Wild and that type of game would probably be Cunnin, probably Hartman, probably Foligno. But even Greenway is not that type of player. The Wild would love him to get more physical. But the Wild just don't have that type of team. So, in terms of copycatting, you just can't do it. Again, your back end too, same thing. I mean, there's not a lot of grit back there. So, and Sealer might be the extra going into this year, quite honestly, on this team. I mean, there's a very good chance that Brad Hunt wins that job out of camp and Sealer's the number 7 if he's still here.
It's been fun working with Tin Shed, tinshedmn.com. If you're down in the Savage area, anywhere in the southern suburbs, look them up. You can book an event. You can go to their website and check out their menu and their deals. You can order online, and it's great pizza, comfort food, beer specials. Check them out, tinshedmn.com. We appreciate their support of the program. A couple more Twitter questions, and we'll let you get back to your country club. From Matt Haza, the Wild. Well, actually, he was going to ask about size. I think you just answered that question. From Nikolai, is Fenton posturing with this roster because he's unhappy with what has been offered for the players he can or will trade, or is he okay with how the roster is now?
Well, look, when Fenton says that he is comfortable with this roster, I've heard every GM I've ever covered after free agency say those same things. So That's right out of the playbook, because Fenton knows if he doesn't make any more moves, he better sell that he's confident with this team, because the goal here is to win a cup and make the playoffs and all that stuff. In terms of posturing, I don't think so. I think that he has decided that right now the offers that were being made for Jason Zucker was not stuff that he wanted to do after Kessel agreed not to come here. So I really think that as of now, Zucker will be on this team unless something amazingly ends this year, changes this summer. In terms of Jared Spurgeon, his goal right away is to extend this guy's contract. At some point, it needs to they need to get in touch. They need to get in front of each other. Paul needs to sit down with Jared, probably face to face, and give him his plan for him to want to stay here. And it needs to happen. If it waits, I think that Paul's in major peril where all of a sudden Jared's going to say, look, I'm not comfortable re-signing right now. Then they're going to go into a year where they potentially could struggle. And you're almost going to have to trade him at the deadline where the value is not anything close to what it was potentially at the draft, which is why, again, I was shocked that they didn't meet a month ago to at least start talking about what it would take to re-sign Jared Spurgeon. But regardless of all that, If he is saying right now, I'm not trading Spurgeon, then just look at this logically. What other pieces on the Wild are potentially valuable to trade right now? Not a whole lot. If we just assume that after trading for Donato or Fiala that he's not entertaining the possibility of trading them, and he's saying all along that he doesn't want to trade guys like Cunnin and Greenway, or maybe even the rights to Kaprizov, what are your other assets? There are none. Zucker's coming off a major injury, and he also had a breakout year before that injury, so you're probably not looking to move him right now. I don't think Brodin has a lot of value right now on the marketplace. They've been trying to trade Patterson to much avail. Even Foligno at 285, I'm sure he's respected around the league, but is he really giving you anything on this roster that's going to make you instantly better? Probably not. Same thing with Eriksson Ek. The guy has never had more than 20-something, if that, points in the NHL. So there's just, this is why I've been saying all along, all offseason, that if the Wild didn't trade these two in particular players, that I wasn't expecting a whole lot on the trade market. Because right now, I mean, like it or not, and it could be harsh, but just look at the Wild roster and what is potentially there that you're willing to move and what you could get for him. It's just not a whole lot. So I think when Paul Fenton says that he's comfortable with this roster, it's not him just trying to make other teams think he's comfortable with this roster and then he's going to all of a sudden swing this home run trade. I think he's saying it because he knows this very well could be the roster come September 12th when the Wild players report for camp.
Maybe the best question of the podcast from Gina. Any chance Russo can get Trampled by Turtles to play their cover of Tom Petty's Wildflowers at Bayfront tomorrow? It seemed to work last year, suggesting Our Town. It's such a beautiful song, and I've yet to hear them play it live. I love that song, and I'd love to have Trampled by Turtles play it.
I will. So during this podcast, this is going to be name dropping, but I've been in a group text with 3 of the band members, and actually, what I did send them, I hope Sharon, who comes to our podcast at Tin Shed, hope she's listening to this. I sent them a picture of this unbelievable gift that Sharon knitted for me. It's the Trampled by Turtles logo, their owl. This awesome frame that's sitting right on my desk here in my office as I do this podcast. And I'm staring at it during the podcast, and I decided to take a picture of it and send it to Simonette and Dave Carroll and Tim, the bass player. And they were all just going nuts about what this thing looks like. So maybe I'll just slip in there right now that they need to play Wildflowers. I have already sent them. So I have video of their Our Town last year, which is just, it sounds amazing on this video. I just happened to be going through my photos and videos yesterday, and I found it. So I kind of sent it to them to just almost like, without this time, like asking, please play Our Town. I sent it to them just to be like, almost like a subtle, like, hey, maybe you should play this again type thing, without actually saying it. It was more like, listen how cool this song sounds. So anyway.
I'll be fascinated to see if that works.
Yep. Thanks to Trampled by Turtles, by the way, for 200 shows now. Victory as the open and Winners as the final song. It's funny. I have so many people that tell me that whenever they hear Victory on the radio or hear the band sing Victory, that they half expect that all of a sudden you and I are going to be talking right after the intro of Victory.
And luckily for them, it's usually not the case.
Yeah, exactly. So, any other questions?
No, I was going to let the show end right there, but of course, it's even more awkward to talk about how we wanted to end the show and we didn't end the show, and we specialize in awkwardness, so we'll end it now.
I'm going to, just so you know, I'm going to Europe on Monday.
Good luck. Enjoy. My wife and I are trying to plan a trip for next summer to get over there and see my sister, whose husband's stationed over there. So I know you always end up traveling a bunch of Wild fans and podcast listeners. So I hope you all have a great time.
Yep. Thank you.
Pretty little city built on a hillside. Music in the bars and fire in the sky. We went to the beach and it was covered in ice. And I used to call it home. So much coming out, there's nothing going in.